Okay, I am limited in the amount of time that I have to record this, so I'm going to go through this very quickly to try and get this posted onto YouTube. You're going to want to turn to worksheet 1. We are going over a certain figure of speech called onomatopoeia. Sounds like a really big word, but it just has to do with the idea of whenever we talk, we make a lot of sounds, and this is trying to get those sounds onto paper. And so things that you hear that are not necessarily words, some of them are. We're just trying to get those down onto paper, such as you might have the sound of a motorbike going by, which might make more of a type of sound. Or brake stopping on a car might be more of like a car horn on a VW bug. Beep, beep. A semi-truck horn might be more of a going by, but it's how do we take those sounds and put them onto paper. Some of them do have a definite spelling to them, and in that case you would want to spell it correctly. Some of them don't, and it's a matter of trying to figure out how can I put letters down on the page to convey the same idea. So the sound of a rain on a dark cold night might be something like just pitter patter. Gets the idea across as far as what you are hearing. The sound when you set a glass on a counter might be a word like clink, or you could say clank. Remember, if I go too quickly, pause the video. The sound of a coconut falling from a tree. You might hear something like thud or plunk or ow. That would be onomatopoeia. The sound of a person who smells a skunk. Ew. That's the sound that they would make. Sound of river rapids might be something like shh. Or you could say something like splash or swish, or more like a roar. It's a horrible roar. Okay. Sound of a ball being hit might be something like wham or whack. Or it could be more of like a plink or a bam. Sound of interference or static on the radio. This might be a or a zzz or a or you could say a zzz, zzz, or a something like that. So you want to make sure and get all of those written down onto your worksheet. And they're going to move on to making sense poetry. This is your poetry. This is, as you can see, a form of list poetry. It must have at least 8 lines with a 3-word minimum per line. Figures and descriptive parts of speech. So on this 8-line poetry, 1 line will be a phrase with 3 adjectives. Adjectives always answer the questions which one, what kind, or how many. You also have 1 phrase with 3 ly adverbs. That means all 3 adverbs must be on the same line. Adverbs always answer the questions where, when, how much, or how often. You must also have 1 set of a 3-word alliteration. 3 or more words that start with the same letter, which must be a consonant, not a vowel. And the beginning must all have the same sound. So same consonant and sound. You must also have a simile comparing 2 things using like or as, and a hyperbole, which is an extreme exaggeration. 1 set of ing, a 3-word phrase participle. So 3 participles together, which are action verbs with ending in ing. You must also have personification that's giving human characteristics to non-human things, such as the trees walked around, or the tractor angrily broke. Tractors may break, but they don't do so angrily. You also must have 1 onomatopoeia, assigning letters which phonetically illustrate a sound. So this is an example of the kind of poetry you're going to be doing. Each one of these has, every line is either one or more types of a figure of speech or a part of speech, because participles are not figures of speech, they're parts of speech. Okay, in a way. Players gathering like a herd of cows waiting for corn. This is a simile, so you'll fill that in on your page. Balls crashing into mitts like magnets magically colliding. We have a few things on there. One is that is hyperbole, is also a simile, and it is alliteration, the ma. Whirring, whizzing, whapping, whamming, that is onomatopoeia. That is alliteration, and those are participles. Scrutinizing, analyzing, families in the groaning bleachers. Those are adjectives, and they are participles. Gleefully, blissfully, brothers and sisters cheering expectantly. Adverbs. And some of these you might go, oh, well, is that also hyperbole? Some of these do. I'm just writing down what we have because I have to move quickly. Personification and alliteration. The crack of the bat hollered hope for a home run. There's our alliteration. And bats don't holler, so there's the personification. Fans encouraging, shouting, yelling, screaming. Participles. Finally, the runner barely slides safely into home. So there we have, adverbs. Umpire's daring, decisive, dogged decision. That is alliteration. Moaning, complaining, celebrating, rejoicing, leaving. We have participles. So that is an example of what your poetry will look like. Now you need to put that underneath your assignments and then turn to the next page. Remember to pause if I go too quickly. Going over different figures of speech. In your 4-paragraph tall tale that you are doing, you must have 20 figures of speech in it. 16 of them must be hyperbole or personification. You may combine that. Say you might want to use a simile, and with the simile have a hyperbole. That would just count as 1, not 2, but you may blend them if you want to. Blending is okay, but it still is only going to count as 1, not more than 1. So we're going back over your figures of speech. So, alliteration, words that begin with the same consonant, letter, and sound. The brilliant blue basket held a bruiser of a baby boy. Hyperbole is extreme exaggeration of the truth. Because you are writing a tall tales, part of them is hyperbole. You have to have the hyperbole to really have a tall tale. Otherwise, it comes across very differently. The mammoth dog barely leapt the fence. Must be so extreme, it's basically impossible. Similes, comparing two things using like or as. She was able to jump higher than a thundercloud. Idioms, phrases which have two meanings. She put a bug in his ear. So those are all figures of speech. So we're going to go over these. We're not going to make up a person because I want to use a couple of different things. Alliteration. This could be something like Sally's so slim, and that's her name, which is why all of those letters are capitalized. Sat silently. So we have at least 3 words together beginning with the same letter and sound. You could also do Bob blew a blue bubble. That would be alliteration. You could just have alliteration as part of a sentence. So maybe Skinny Sam sank subtly into the couch. Something like that would be fine. Robert ran through the right road. Separating them like that is okay as long as it's not too far apart. I would encourage you to just have maybe 2 at the most. I really wouldn't go beyond 3 to have a good, strong alliteration. Hyperbole, extreme exaggeration of the truth. This would be something, typically with tall tale characters, you're going to do something with extreme strength or size. That is very typical of them. So you might have Sally so slim could squeeze through a keyhole. Or have something like Paul Bunyan let's see. Paul Bunyan dug ditches which created mountains. And he would have actually, tall tale wise, he would have done that just with a shovel. So it wasn't like he was using a giant machinery to do that. Pecos Bill lassoed a tornado and calmed it down. These are the types of things that you would see with kind of hyperbole. These things are impossible, but they're extreme exaggerations. Let's see. This one's a little bit long, but it'll give you a good idea. They had to gallop across the ship because it was so large. All right. And then simile, comparing 2 different things using like or as. I'm actually wanting to bring in a hyperbole here because you have to do this so much. So rather than saying like or as, we're going to use the word than. So he was taller than a skyscraper. He was larger than, type. He was larger than a mountain. He was faster than lightning. He was colder than an iceberg. That should be right. Okay, those are all good examples of similes. It is bringing hyperbole into it. That'll help you with your tall tale. Idioms, phrases which have 2 meanings. Sally was often in a pickle. Storm along, put a bug in his ear, meaning he planted an idea in his mind. And Paul, I'm thinking these off the top of my head, Paul burned the midnight oil. Pecos Bill liked to jump the gun. That will at least get you started. I am almost out of battery, so I need to stop for right now, but I will try and get the rest of this lesson posted as soon as possible.